Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 7 o'clock main news. In tonight's headlines, the Deputy Premier, Interior Minister and Acting Minister of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs affirms the political leadership's firm support for the security institution to establish peace for the nation. IS militants are accused of executing dozens of Syrian soldiers in the Tabaqa airbase. Turkish President-elect Recep Tayyip Erdogan is sworn in after winning the country's first ever popular vote for head of state. And Ukraine's president cancels a foreign visit citing Russian troop deployments in Ukraine as rebels seize a town in the south. The Deputy Premier and Minister of Defence, Sheikh Khalid Al-Jarrah Al-Sabah, left Kuwait for Turkey today to represent His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jabir Al-Sabah, at the inauguration ceremony of His Excellency President Recep Tayyip Erdogan as the new President of the Turkish Republic. Upon his departure, His Excellency was seen off at the airport by the Army Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Abdurrahman Muhammad Uthman, the Under Secretary of the Ministry of Defence, Jassar Abdurrazak Al-Jassar, and the Deputy Army Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Muhammad Khalid Al-Khudr. The representative of His Highness the Emir, the Deputy Premier and Minister of Defence, arrived in the Turkish capital Ankara today to attend the inauguration ceremony of the Turkish President. His Excellency was received at the airport by the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, Ambassador Abdullah Dweigh, and members of Kuwait's embassy in Ankara. The Deputy Premier, Minister of Interior and Acting Minister of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs, Sheikh Mohammed Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, asserted that the political leadership was lending its complete support to the security establishment in order for it to be able to carry out its duties and consolidate the safety and security of the citizens. He pointed out that the ministry is working hard to modernize and upgrade all security sectors in the framework of a comprehensive strategy tailored to invigorate the security work to keep abreast with modern technology and to reflect the cultural image of the State of Kuwait. During his visit to the new police academy premises on the 4th Ring Road, the Deputy Premier, Minister of Interior and Acting Minister of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs expressed satisfaction and appreciation to all parties who were involved in completing the project. His Excellency was accompanied during his visit by the Under Secretary of the Ministry of Interior, Lieutenant General Sulaiman Fahd Al-Fahd. They were received upon arrival by the Under Secretary of the Ministry of Interior for Financial and Administrative Affairs, Major General Sheikh Ahmed Abdullah Al-Khalifa Al-Sabah, the Assistant Under Secretary for Support Services, Major General Eid Abdullah Busleb, the Acting Assistant Under Secretary for Education and Training, Major General Dr. Muhammad Rafa Al-Dehani, the Acting Director General of Saad Al-Abdullah Academy for Security Science, Major General Harun Al-Amar, as well as Assistant Under Secretaries and senior officials at the Ministry of Interior. The Deputy Premier, Minister of Interior and Acting Minister of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs, Sheikh Mohammed Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, received at the Ministry of Interior today the Acting Under Secretary of the Ministry of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs, the Assistant Under Secretary for Administration and Finance, Farid Asad Imadi, who was accompanied by the Director of Hajj Department, Rumi Rumi, and the Director of the Office of the Minister of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs, Badr Al-Dhaferi. His Excellency was briefed by Mr. Imadi on the preparations being made by the Ministry to ensure safety and comfort of Kuwaiti Hajj missions. The Deputy Premier and Minister of Interior underlined during the meeting the need to raise awareness during the pilgrims about the measures they should take and laws they should abide by during the movement of their convoys while travelling towards the Holy Lands. His Excellency the Deputy Premier and Minister of Interior, Acting Minister of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs, Sheikh Mohammed Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, received at his office today the Ambassador of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, His Excellency Dr. Abdulaziz Ibrahim Al-Fayez. Talks in the meeting covered a number of subjects of mutual interest, mainly the Kingdom's preparations for the Hajj season, besides coordination between the two sides to provide the Kuwaiti Hajj mission with all necessary facilities. A monitoring group said today that Islamic State fighters have executed dozens of members of the Syrian army they captured after seizing an airbase in the northeast of the country. The IS stormed Tabaqa airbase on Sunday after days of clashes with the army and said it had captured and killed soldiers and officers in one of the fiercest confrontations yet between the two sides. Earlier, the United Nations said IS militants have committed mass atrocities in Syria and have recruited children as fighters. In a report, investigators said public executions are common in areas run by IS, while also accusing the Syrian authorities of using chemical agents in 8 separate incidents this year. Families in Gaza started to return home today 2 days after a ceasefire was agreed between Hamas and Israel. The Egyptian brokered truce includes an agreement to ease the blockade on Gaza, open border crossings to allow the flow of more aid, and extend the fishing limit off the coast. Meanwhile, Israeli tanks started pulling back from the border with Gaza today. Arab and international aid convoys continued for a second day to cross Egypt's Rafah crossing into the Gaza Strip. Hamas and Israel both declared victory in the Gaza war, which lasted over 7 weeks of conflict that killed more than 2,200 people, most of them Palestinian civilians. Recep Tayyip Erdogan was sworn in today as Turkey's first popularly elected president, a position that will keep him as the nation's leader for at least another 5 years. Erdogan was scheduled to appoint Foreign Minister Ahmet Davutoglu, his designated successor as Prime Minister, to form a new government following ceremonies at the presidential palace. Taking the oath in parliament, Erdogan said he will abide by the principles of the secular republic. Erdogan has dominated Turkish politics for a decade and won Turkey's first direct presidential elections on August 10th. He has indicated he wants to transform the presidency from a largely ceremonial post into a more powerful position, and he is expected to hold sway in the country's running. France today called for exceptional support for Libya, warning the country could fall into chaos without United Nations intervention. French President François Hollande warned that if no action is taken, terrorism will spread across the region. His comments came a day after the UN Security Council called for an immediate ceasefire in Libya. He is also seeking sanctions against those involved in the surge in violence between rival militias. The Security Council has been alarmed by the increase in fighting between militia groups and Libya's army factions in recent weeks. Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko today cancelled a visit to Turkey, citing Russian troop-built deployments in the east of the country. Poroshenko said he decided to stay in Kiev in view of the deteriorating situation in Donetsk region. He added that he was calling a meeting of the Ukrainian Security Council and that Ukraine would initiate an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council to discuss the crisis. His announcement came as pro-Russian rebels took the coast town of Novozhivsk and threatened the strategic port of Mariupol. Russia said no forces were crossing Ukraine's border at any point. Pakistani Khalik Tahrir al-Qadri, who has led mass rallies outside Parliament, announced that negotiations with the government have completely failed. Tahrir al-Qadri, along with cricket star turned politician Imran Khan, have been leading daily rallies for nearly 2 weeks in Pakistan's capital Islamabad, demanding Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif resign over alleged election fraud. Both Khan and Qadri have also demanded reforms in Pakistan's electoral system to prevent further vote fraud. Although the demonstrations have fallen well short of the 1 million protesters that both opposition leaders promised, heavy security measures have badly harmed businesses in the capital. The World Health Organization said all countries should be prepared for a possible spread of Ebola, especially the neighbors of those affected countries. The WHO warned that the number of people affected by the virus could rise to 20,000 within the next 9 months. The organization projected that $500 million would be needed to fund efforts aimed at stopping the spread of the disease. In a document released today, the UN health body declared that the outbreak of the disease continues to accelerate, with more than 40% of reported cases occurring within the last 3 weeks. As of today, health authorities in the 4 affected nations, Guinea, Liberia, Nigeria and Sierra Leone, have reported 3,069 cases of the disease since the outbreak started in December. Under the auspices of the Ministry of State for Youth Affairs, the Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research launched its 27th summer training programme for university and secondary school students, which aims at encouraging the youth to participate in scientific research and learn the latest international scientific and technological developments. Since 1976, the programme focuses on different scientific fields each year, and now the number of training programmes has increased to 11, including chemistry, biology, engineering, genetics, microbiology, renewable energy, healthy food and biodiversity, in addition to technical skills programmes, carpentry and computing for people with special needs. Sarah Glubb has the details in this report.
Institute for Scientific Research, or KISR, continued its activities for the 37th Summer Training Program, with this year's slogan being Scientific Creativity, Leadership and Innovation Path.
I participate in KISR Summer Program in Genetics and Molecular Department. Today we are visiting Makki Jum'a Hospital just to give a small gift to the patient here, and just to chat with them to see how the treatment's going with them, and just to elevate them from their mood. This is my first time just to join KISR program. I want some work experience in genetics field, especially I love genetics. So I choose to get involved in this program. So yeah, it was a very good program to get involved in. Especially there's an experiment, there's a trip, so there's many things that we can do.
My father told me first about the course, and he asked me if I want to join, and I searched about it, and I came to the presentation they did, and I liked the course and what they showed us and what they told us about it. Well, him is like to go forward and creativity from myself, and to contribute to Kuwait and to myself. KISR is helping me a lot in fulfilling my dreams and showing me the path to future. It is helping me a lot by not only showing me what I can be capable of doing, but also it's explained to me what majors I can go in college and what I will learn.
A major part of this year's program is to promote responsibility in serving the community as part of an initiative entitled Abdullah's Bag that aims to bring out the humanitarian side of students and encourage them to participate in voluntary work and giving, and included visits to various medical centers and elderly care homes.
Today we have a visit from KISR, and it's a nice actually planned for 100 high school students from females and males, and they are going, and today they visit our patients and they provide the smile and small gifts. It's a nice actually community interaction that those people feel of what those patients usually feel, especially if they are a chronic patient in these hospitals. And sometimes a visit to a patient with a smile can reduce a lot of psychological tension on him and his family. So I thank them honestly of having this visit to us today and visit our patients and our center, and we are welcoming many people who are willing to visit our patients or give sometimes gifts in occasions. I think these kind of visits do community and psychological support for our patients, especially the cancer patients. So I really thank them.
A total of 170 secondary school students, 53 university students, including 10 from the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, and 14 students with special needs were meticulously selected to participate in this month-long summer program, where they explore science through hands-on learning and activities. Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research organized its 37th annual summer training program this year, including together high school graduates, university students, and people with special needs. And this year was especially different as they took them to tour the Sabah Al Ahmed Hospital area, where they visited the Kuwait Cancer Control Center, the National Bank of Kuwait Hospital, and the care in the community housing for the elderly and the orphanage. From Kuwait Cancer Control Center, this is Sarah Glubb reporting for English News.
And the Kuwait Stock Exchange ended today's trading with its weighted and price indices in the green zone. However, the KSX 15 reached 1,197.28 points, shedding 4.31 points. The weighted index reached 490.99 points, gaining 0.27 points, and the price index stood at 7,403.83 points, earning 7.63 points. The number of trades reached 4,659, while the total number of shares was 21.4 million Kuwaiti dinars, with a volume of 201.6 million shares. For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. And to recap tonight's news, here are the headlines once again. The Deputy Premier, Interior Minister and Acting Minister of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs affirms the political leadership's firm support for the security institution to establish peace for the nation. IS militants are accused of executing dozens of Syrian soldiers in the Tabqa airbase. Turkish President-elect Recep Tayyip Erdogan is sworn in after winning the country's first ever popular vote for head of state. And Ukraine's president cancels a foreign visit, citing Russian troop deployments in Ukraine as rebels seize a town in the south. Thank you for joining us.